Hello, everyone. My name is Shana Aiach. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Heuritech, and I will introduce Heuritech and how we use artificial intelligence in order to foster the creativity of fashion teams and how to help them create the collections which are accordingly built with the consumers. So actually, Heuritech has turned the social media data into prediction and trend prediction by using artificial intelligence. In a very few words, what we do at Heuritech is we analyze the social media and we look at what people are wearing and we turn this data into a prediction of what will be the future trends. We collaborate with several types of actors. The first one working with companies such as Louis Vuitton, like Dior, like Moncler, in order to help them understand what are consumers doing with their products, how do they wear it. We also work with more like fast fashion industry, obviously, in order to adjust the way they create the product creation. And we also work with the sports industry. So first of all, looks like my clicker. Okay. So first of all, we're working actually to help brands to discover new strategic opportunities. We're not here to replace what creative people do. We're not here to tell them what to do, but we are here to help them with three things. The first one is how can we give them confidence into what they are doing, and how can we help them have a data-driven mindset so they can make the better decision, especially in certain contexts. Something that we've seen more specifically after the COVID is it's becoming harder for teams to travel. It's becoming harder for teams to engage with their consumers. So how can they use the data that we see on social media to gain confidence? The second theme is collaboration. Our objective is to help teams to better work together around a tool, around the same language, and around the same data. Something that we have seen among our clients is that most of the time it's very hard to have all the company on the same board and on the same boat. Especially we have seen that there might be in some cases discrepancies between the designers and the merchandisers. Our objective is to give them one tool, one same data, so they can speak around this data, not specifically decide on what to do based on what the data is saying, but at least have the same point of comparison. And the last part is knowledge. How can we share and give to the fashion teams one same centralized base of knowledge, which is given through the computer vision and through what we see on social media? I'm sorry, I'm trying to use my key to change, but it looks like it doesn't work. Okay. So why we're looking at social media data? Why is social media such a great source in order to predict trends and to help brands to collaborate? Actually, we have seen over the past year that with the rise of social media, the power of influence has kind of shifted from superstars, from magazines, from brands themselves to more and more the consumers themselves and to the influencers. Today with social media, everyone has a voice. Everyone can share the opinion. Everyone can have an influence. And that's why it's very important for brands not only to be in a top-down approach, but also to understand what is coming from the street and what is coming from the voice of my consumers. Maybe a few numbers to state this and to show how social media has been important recently. Today, there are 8 million of business profiles on Instagram, which is 5 times more than 2 years ago. So the number of people who actually use Instagram, especially for business, is increasing a lot. The second thing is that today, social media really shapes the way people are making some purchase. 71% of consumers today in fashion say that they have been influenced by something that they have seen on social media. So what you see, the content that you are seeing on social media is really shaping the way you purchase. Then we see that fashion is a great space on social media. It's the hashtag fashion is the hashtag the most used fashion. Fashion is the industry the most spoken about on social media and most specifically on Instagram, just after food, actually. So if you want to learn about the life cycle of trends, Instagram is a great space. We're looking, of course, at more social networks. The shape of social networks is clearly evolving. TikTok is also gaining a huge importance in the fashion industry, especially to understand the Generation Z. Okay. So what we see is that image recognition is actually at the heart of what we do at Heuritech and at the heart of how we are shaping and understanding the trends. Why is that so? A lot of companies, and the easiest way and most intuitive way would be to understand what is being said by understanding the text. However, we see that understanding the text is clearly not enough. If we're looking at hashtags only, we would miss on average 80% of the content. Why is that so? 80% of the people who use a hashtag actually of the brand do not show the brand. They just want to gain visibility. So here you can see, for instance, a Chanel bag with the hashtag Louis Vuitton. And on the other hand, if you really want to understand the trends, if you really want to understand what are the popular brands, who are your loyal consumers, if you look at text, you are missing 90% of the information because people are actually not really using the text to say what they are wearing, just being loyal to the brand. So on this last picture, we saw someone who's wearing a Dior bag, but not mentioning Dior at all. So this is why image recognition is really key and it's really at the heart of what we do at Heuritech in order to understand trends. So this is really where the artificial intelligence is coming in. This is because we're using image recognition. So we have a team at Heuritech who is dedicated to actually understand how to define a trend using attributes. So we have several thousands of attributes that we're able to recognize into an image. So from any image that we see on social media, by just analyzing the picture through our image recognition technology based on deep learning, we can say what this person is wearing. So it goes from actually very generic elements like what categories are being seen. Are we talking about coats, tops, bottoms? And then we go the most narrow possible. So we're looking at, of course, colors, textures, patterns, but we're also looking at very specific shapes. Like these boots are pointed, they are stiletto heel. And most importantly, we can also recognize some specific products and models Like in this picture, for instance, we can say that this woman is wearing a Bottega Veneta pouch. Um, and this is by understanding also how specific products are being seen and worn on social media, that we can anticipate trends, not only at the market level, but also at a product level. Um, we are building list of elements that we want to recognize. This list is constantly being enriched, and this is how we will be using it to actually understand and forecast the trends. So once we have built this image recognition, technology, the objective, if we want to help brands to better create, to better find the market fit, how can we anticipate the early signals before the market has adopted it? So this is really the key for brands, is how can I be ahead of my market and anticipate as early as possible? So at Heuritech, our objective is to find the early signals. So to find early signals, we have a methodology which is divided by panels. We look at different type of people, and we look at people and what they are wearing. And if we see that, for instance, people that Heuritech has been classifying into fashion forward people, because in the past they have been proven to be ahead of trends, these people will be especially looked at by our technology, and we will be saying, okay, this kind of panel is starting to wear, let's say, red raffle dress, and this is an information that we are entering in our algorithm, and which is helping us to anticipate the market adoption. So at the end of the day, the way we go is to go from tags that we see on social media to specific trends. So we're drawing a trend line, but not only do we define a trend, we also try to make it as clear as possible for fashion teams and for them to be able to understand if the trend is relevant for their DNA or not. So we are classifying trends into different buckets, which can be like fashion bets, bold belt, safe bet, stable, based on our KPIs. The KPIs could be, how big is the trend? How many people are wearing it? Are we talking about something which is niche, or are we talking about something which is massive? How is the trend growing? What is the volume of this trend this year compared to the other one? And the last one is, who is wearing the trend? It's mainstream people, edgy people, trendy people. And based on the combination of those three KPIs, this is how we can classify trends into specific recommendations. It's very interesting to see that sometimes there are trends that are making huge noise because they are growing a lot. I'm talking, for instance, of the tie and dye, but at the end of the day, if you look at the volume, it's still pretty moderate. And it's interesting to really always compare all the KPIs all together before making any conclusion. So we're working with three different kind of teams. And again, our objective is also to put them all together around the table. The first team which we are working with, especially when we work with mass market companies or sports companies, would be the design team. What are the trends that you want to include in your collections? What are the trends that you don't want to include in your collection? What is new? What should I be aware of by understanding social media and what people wear? So this is the first team we're working with. The second one would be the merchandising, and especially with luxury companies, we're mostly working with merchandising team and not at all with the studio, obviously, because they are the one creating the trends. Merchandising team is really here to actually give the keys to the design teams about how to build the collections. So they will be looking at data and numbers more specifically to understand what are the big drivers of the trends. How is the collection should be balanced? Should I be including more pants this year or more dress, for instance? So these people tend to be really analytical compared to designers who tend to be a bit more focused on the images. And then while working with the marketing team, obviously, what should I push to touch which kind of audience, and when should I communicate about which trend? So these three teams are using actually the data from Heuritech, but they're using it in a different way. So that's why we really try to build something which is comprehensive and talking to different kind of people by putting, of course, numbers, but also a lot of images directly from the social media to replicate how the teams already work. So Heuritech is coming at different moments of the collection process. Our objective is to be present for our clients all along the collection process. So the first thing is when you create the collection at the moment of the collection brief. Then, of course, at the planning, the buying session, obviously, you want to understand which quantities to buy based on what is trendy, the volume of the trend that you're expected to see, but also how you should be communicating. So as you see, being all along the collection process, it's very important to be able to cover different time frame of the trends. So for the collection brief, we want to be usually up to a year in advance, while for the communication, we just want to be on time for the trends. So here, just maybe a very quick example so it can become more concrete for you. This is a use case that we have built around a year ago for a client who was wondering what he should be putting at outwear. It was a luxury client for the winter 2021 collection. And we came out actually with off-white being something very interesting as it's growing by 3%. It's expected to be flat, but more importantly, it's something which is specifically seen on outerwear. So the color of white itself is something that we see specifically on outerwear, which is tend to be growing. So this information has been used by our clients to add more off-white, and for instance, to review the pure white that they wanted to include by off-white. So here is another example of how you can identify specific trends by bucket. You can, of course, just want to be a bit more concrete by showing you this screen. Select for which period do you want to see trends, for which geography, for which gender, and do you want to see, for instance, trends that are only in high season. Then you will see by bucket, okay, fashion bets, which are the big trends with high magnitude and high growth, are here. So you can have the ditzy, the nature prints. If you want to go on something a bit bolder, you can go on the fruit, for instance, which is growing a lot by 13%, but which is a bit smaller. So that's why we put it on a bold bet. And what is the impact here that we see for our clients? Understanding better trends, adjusting your collections and your process by understanding your markets and taking the numbers drives an increase of up to 9% of sales. It's also a decrease of overstock, of course, by up to 13%. Understanding when you should be reducing your quantities, when you should be removing yourself from specific trends. And overall, it's up to minus 50% of forecasting errors that we see. So this is the impact that we have seen on our clients by using Heuritech for up to a year. And thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very much for listening to me, and happy to get in touch anytime. Thank you.